All right, so you got your visa, you're ready to take the next flight to the US, but what do you really have to do when you arrive? In this video, I'm gonna talk about some of the essential things you need to do when you arrive in the US. So when I arrived 1.5 years ago, one of the first things I did was to get a bank account and try to see if I could get a credit card. And one of the reasons why this was high on my priority was 30-day basis, you need a bank account, of course, just like in your own country, I assume. And also because I knew it was super important to build your credit score. If I needed to take a loan at some point, then I would need a credit history, basically. So this was one of the first things I did, and I got recommended to get Chase, like they use the bank Chase. So I went to Chase maybe after 1 week. 1 week after I arrived, went to the bank and said I just arrived in the US and now I wanna have a bank account. I had to go back a few times because they needed passport, they needed secondary ID and other things, but in the end it was all doable and I got my bank account. Next thing was to get to see if I could get a credit card. At this point it was not really possible, so I had to get a secured credit card. I made another video about this that you can, I have a link down here where you can see more about the different credit cards and how to build credit in the US. The second thing on my list was health insurance. As you probably know, health insurance can be a little complicated and expensive in the US. And also until this day, I'm still trying to understand how it really works. Some of these things is just super confusing to me. This was really something that was important to me. So I asked around and I looked, and it's difficult to be super concrete in this video because it depends on the state. But in California, they have a website called Covered California, which is a public website, or it's one that is by the state of California. And here is listed with the different companies that you can choose, like different private insurances. And depending on your situation, I mean, again, it really depends on your setup, and I'm no expert in this, but then you can have some of it deducted or covered by the state of California. But it depends on your work, and also if you have a regular job in the US, of course, the case is very different. I could just speak for myself, going there as an entrepreneur with my own company, looking for an insurance. After some time, I learned how it worked and got the insurance. One of the next things I did was actually to get a US driver's license. You probably have a driver's license from your country, and I also had one from Denmark. Again, it was a little unclear how important it is to get a US driver's license. What I understood was that it was good to get sooner or later. And in the US, it's really very different from Europe, or at least Denmark, because the cost of getting a driver's license in California was, I think, $45 or something like that. So it was like nothing. The laws are a little different in the US versus Europe. You have to do the theory, where you have to go and answer some questions. And then the next thing is to do a 15-minute drive, and then if everything is okay, then you get your driver's license. And also one important note is that the driver's license is used as the ID in so many situations. So it is really convenient to have, because if not, you often have to have your passport with you, or there's also something called a real ID. Again, the most used card here is the driver's license. So for the ID. So that was also one reason why I felt this was a good thing to get done. Another thing that would probably be on your list as number one would be to find an apartment or a place to stay more long-term and not just a hotel. But in my case, I actually had some friends where I could stay the first couple of months, so I didn't really have to worry so much about that. So when I arrived in LA, I could just move into this place. And I mean, it was just a room, but it was a great way for me to just have a place. And this was a Danish couple that I know. And this was a great way for me to just get settled and didn't have to worry about also finding an apartment. So this was one thing that I didn't have to worry about. But if you're not that lucky or like not in that situation, then of course, probably the first priority is to find a place to live. And there's a couple of websites that is good for that. I think the one I use the most is Zillow. There's also apartments.com and many others. I mean, if you just search on Google, you'll find them. Though, if you want to find some that is maybe not as commercial, maybe it's more like individual or family that has an extra house or extra apartment, then it can be a good idea to go on Craigslist. Even though it's super old school, that can be your way to find the better deals, because if you go to apartments.com or similar, then those places are more commercial, it's more apartment complexes, and typically more expensive. So that's maybe a good thing to think about. I mentioned the links in the description. The next thing that is important is, of course, to get a car. Again, I've been fortunate. I could use one of my friend's car in the beginning, so that would have been amazing for me. But if you're not in that situation, then you probably need to go and buy a car within not too long, because at least if it's a city like LA or other American cities that is more spread out, then you need. The places I would recommend is either go to Auto Trader or Craigslist. That's probably the two places I would go. If you're looking for a more like a cheap basic car, maybe Craigslist is a good place to go. If you need a little nicer car and you need to have a little bit more purchase protection, then potentially Auto Trader is a little better. But again, there's so many websites out there. It's probably the two places where I would look. I think one last thing that I want to add to this list is finding a co-working office, and in general, make an environment where you meet a lot of people. And for me, I signed up for WeWork. I also used to go to WeWork in Stockholm when I lived there, and I think WeWork have been really a great setup for me. It's not that expensive. They have many locations, whether it's LA, New York, or somewhere else in the world, and that's really something I would prioritize. So finding a good co-working office that you can go to can also be a really good fit. I would probably recommend you WeWork. Of course, there's many other options out there, more that is only in the different cities. But for example, here in LA, there's also one called Second Home, I think it's called, which I went to and checked out, which is a little more trendy, cool place. Yeah, there's so many options out there. So depend on what kind of environment you like, but that's something I would also prioritize on my list. And thank you for watching this video, and it would be a big help if you would push the subscribe button and follow me for more videos in the future. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again soon.